What misfortunes have you had for being too polite to say no? I worked with a guy called Dan, who would come talk to me on my lunch break and seemed weird but nice enough. Turned out we knew a lot of the same people. One day, he asked me to go see a band with him and his friends that I knew. I felt bad saying no, so I agreed and met him at his house the next evening. Turns out, the band was a CD in his dining room, and his friends were a candlelight meal and a fancy bottle of wine. Clearly tricked into a date. I pretended my phone rang with an emergency and got the hell out of there. The next time I went into work, I discovered that he had told everyone that I was now his girlfriend. I was known as Dan's girlfriend for 18 months. 2 Jehovah's Witnesses came by my house 2 years ago and wanted to come in and have a chat. 2 years later, they call every week and stop by spontaneously at times. I used to live and work in Japan, and when I first arrived I had an internship with a small broadcasting company. I went out in the field to film a festival where this large group of sweet old ladies were making mochi by hand. Everyone wanted to meet me and talk to me, and of course, were offering me tons of freshly made mochi. The thing is, I hate mochi. Absolutely loathe it. But these old ladies were so sweet and my boss was just all smiles and I was trying to be as polite as possible, so I ate the mochi and pretended to love it. Later, on the drive back, I grudgingly admitted to my boss that I don't really like mochi. This very quiet Japanese guy started laughing uproariously, extremely amused that I was so careful to be polite I ate something I hated. Everybody at the office had a laugh about it, but at least they never made me eat mochi again. I agreed to be a bridesmaid in a wedding for a girl I don't like. Terrible experience. I spent $1,500 on the whole ordeal. 4 months after the wedding, they're getting divorced. Such a waste of time and money. Once at a restaurant an old man, I think he was mentally disabled, asked me to reach into his trench coat to get a sandwich for him. I said no, but my friend can't ever say no, so she did, and pulled out an enormous sandwich wrapped in tin foil. True story. I inadvertently obtained a Mary Kay stalker from my workplace. I was new to the job and didn't want to upset a customer, so when she complimented my complexion and offered a consultation I gave her my phone number. It's nearly a year later and I'm still dodging at-home appointments with lame excuses. She'll go so far as to come to my workplace to ask why I haven't returned her calls. Edit. And several days later. I have not heard from this same lady in a bit. We appear amiable about my disinterest when she comes in store, she is still a happy customer, and she has moved her efforts elsewhere, still at my work, but other people, which is nice. I got a really horrible haircut, twice. I knew most of the ladies at a particular salon did a good job but this one just butchered it. I came in and looked around, didn't see her so I assumed it was safe. Guess who walks out of the back room? I took the entry exam for the Army Reserves because I was too meek to tell the recruiter I wasn't interested. My experience that day made me even less interested. I learned from that and became a much more assertive person. I recently had a job interview, in which, as the HR person explained more about the position, I realized I really didn't want the job. I was moved on to the next step and instead of telling the HR person I was no longer interested, I had to shadow the managers of the store for 8 hours followed by an interview with the area directors. I was offered the position. I'm guessing at some point I should tell them I don't want to the job. I had a pickup truck in college. At the beginning/end of every year, I had a lot more friends than I normally did. I had an interview for a job at a design/logo company and he asked me to come back the next day to shadow him, which I was fine with. What I wasn't aware of was that he was going to make me do a full 8-hour workday. Unpaid obviously, and leave me due to a bunch of bitch work of which I wasn't even familiar with. I had no experience in the field. He also took me along in his car to meet some client, and then stopped at Tim Hortons for lunch, which was awkward as frock. Then when we got back to the office, he told me he needed me to call around to find a different type of water bottle, to use for a certain client. I had no clue WTF I was doing, and he basically just left me with a phone book and a phone, and he frocked off for an hour. The day ended with me in the basement folding about 200 t-shirts that were having logos printed on them. Oh, and he never called me about the job after that day. Pretty sure the douchefuck was just trying to get free labor out of unsuspecting young people. My extremely drunk friend wanted to follow these two girls to a party after the bar closed. They seemed really sketchy, but he kept egging me on with, "Come on, where's your sense of adventure?" I was sober and should have known better, but I let him talk me into it. It was somewhere between a punk rock house and a crack house. At least 8 people, ages roughly 18 to 22, living in a tiny, horrendously dirty house with no running water or electricity, except an extension cord running from a neighbor's house that powered an amp. Everyone there was frocked up on something, and, thank God, they kicked us out after 10 minutes when I refused to buy Molly from a guy. How we didn't get robbed is beyond me. I was at a tea shop that sells loose leaf teas by the ounce. The lady behind the counter was very much Chinese, and I have trouble understanding people with heavy accents. At this particular shop, the baristas earn commission on every ounce they sell. I asked for 2 ounces of Earl Grey, which should come out to around $8.99 USD. She said something that sounded like, "Y'all like a black tea, old tree golden monkey black tea, it's very good." Now, I'm already a deer in the headlights at this point. I honestly have no idea what she just said. But she motioned to the golden monkey black tea on the top shelf and I understood. "Yeah, I'll bet that's good," I said. "You want?" "S sure." Her eyes lit up with delight as she removed it from the shelf and started scooping. I glanced up at the price per ounce. Oh shit. It was $29.99 an ounce. God damn it. I start to speak up when she says something like, "Tastes really good mixed with fruit, what's a tunstenkelst javecast?" Mixed with what? Mixed with fruit, what's a tunstenkelst javecast? I'm sorry. Fruit, what's a tunstenkelst javecast? F fruit. What's a tunstenkelst javecast? Tastes really good mixed with fruit, what's a tunstenkelst javecast? This was a real double whammy for me. Not only could I not understand her, I had used up the allotted 3 whats I was socially allowed to ask. I'm a deer in the headlights again. I don't want to be in this tea shop anymore. I want to run away. I want a bomb to go off outside so I don't have to talk to this lady anymore. You want? Why yeah, sure. Now she was the happiest person I think I had ever seen. She gets the tea tin down. It's $14.99 USD per ounce. God frocking damn it. How much you want? Just one, please. Onichst JK's decay. I'm sorry. Onichst JK's decay. Yes. She proceeds to give 1 scoop of each in a bag. Mixed together. It cannot be undone without great difficulty. Each scoop holds several ounces. Yawan Titans with that KPRDA fresh for IR Satatamegud investment. With Zamaktia. I'm S. Yeah, I'll take some. This woman was practically having an orgasm by this point. Your total is going to 127 and 86 cents. F asterisk CK. My total was $127.86 USD. I literally don't have enough money on my bank card to pay for this. Oh I'm terribly sorry. Could you take off the golden monkey mix and the tea tins, and just give me Nuncio Fierlgree? I've never seen someone look so deflated. My dad had a random bus that he could not find a place to park it. He called a friend to see if he could park it in his backyard. The friend was too polite to say no, so he ended up with a bus in his backyard for about a month. Or at least that's how the friend's wife explained it. I believe her, my dad does stuff like that. Date auction. I was one of the guys being sold. I was the first one up, and right as I get on stage, the host asks in front of everyone, "Women only, or can men bid too?" I was too polite to say women only, so I just said sure. Wound up being won by a guy. I'm a heterosexual male. As soon as the auction ends and I'm about to leave, another guy comes up to me and says that he wanted to bid on me but came after I was already purchased, and asks if he can match the winning bid and get a date with me too. This time I was about to be more assertive, except the host of the fundraiser was there, and if I answered no then the organization would not get the extra money. I said yes. Again, I'm a heterosexual male. I wound up going on both dates. The first guy was really nice, so I felt like an asshole for leading him on. The second guy turned out to be a jerk, so I felt great leading him on. A friend called me at midnight crying because she had 3 essays due in 6 hours and she had been procrastinating leaving it until the last minute. She's a first-year political science university student, and she wanted me to write 2 of the essays on the French Revolution. How the frock am I, a junior in high school, supposed to write 2 university essays on a topic I have no familiarity with in 6 hours, and I have school the next day? Never mind, she's a friend and I can't leave her during her time of need. I told her I never studied the French Revolution. She said she doesn't care as long as she has 2 essays to hand in. Reluctantly, I agreed and spent the whole night writing her 2 essays. Needless to say, she got a D in one and an F in the other one. Fast forward 2 months and I told her I want to apply in a respectable university and study political science. She scoffed and told me that I would never be accepted, considering how the essays she asked me to write for her received a failing grade. She dropped out of the university and is in community college. We don't speak anymore. I attended a casting call for a local play. The audition was very open and we all watched each other perform. After the audition, I was approached by a fellow auditioner who said he was writing and directing another play that would be presented around the same time as the piece being casted. He said that he really liked my performance and would like to use me in his show. I was flattered, but at the same time, this guy gave off a semi-creepy vibe. He seemed sweet though, and I figured there would be other people in the play, so what can go wrong? Well, a week later I get a copy of the script. And it's horrible. It's the worst bit of rambling bullshit I'd ever read. It's 5 pages of monologue spoken by one old blind Southern woman. I was a 23-year-old girl. Suddenly I wasn't so flattered to be in the piece. The whole premise of this piece is an old woman sitting and talking randomly to herself. I wanted to write him back so badly and say, "Thank you, but I'm not interested." Or, "I'm busy," or "my dot died," anything. But I just couldn't. Instead I begrudgingly wrote, "When do we start rehearsing?" and said, "It's not bad, ugh." What followed was the longest 2 months of my life. Twice a week I'd meet this guy in the theater and recite the 5 pages of monologue. He wanted me to speak with a Southern accent, of which I don't have. I've never been good at accents and I knew I sounded ridiculous. He tried to get me to do some character development on a character that made no sense at all. I'd ask him questions like, "So if this woman is born blind, how does she know what the color yellow is enough to be obsessed with it?" And he'd respond, "Well, how do you think she'd know? That's not a frocking answer. Your play doesn't make sense." He'd say things like, "Let's put a suitcase on the floor next to you." And I'd say, "Why?" And he'd just say, "Why do you think she'd have a suitcase? OMG. WTF. Anyway. Cut to the end. Night of the performance, I'm backstage, dressed convincingly like an old woman, complete with stage wrinkles. and the director comes backstage and says you don't have to go on if you don't want to. I'm like, what? I peek around the curtain and there isn't a single person in the audience. I said frock it and went out on stage, recited my damn lines, and left. TLDR, got asked to be in a play. Spent 2 months working on the worst play I've ever read. Performed to an empty room. Sorry it was so long. Edit, OMG guys. Dog. Not dot. A guy in a class I was tying for asked me to hang out a couple times. He didn't seem to have many friends and seemed like a pretty nice person at first, so I said sure, why not? He semi-joined my circle of friends, and another friend I have told me she really liked him and asked if I could help set them up. Perfect, I thought, I like both these people and they get along. I stopped hanging out with the guy alone to give my friend more chances. Basically making an excuse to leave whenever it was just the three of us together, though we did keep going out as a group. 2 weeks later, the guy told everyone that we had been dating and he had broken up with me for my other friend. The female friend I'd been trying to set him up with stopped talking to me, and I found out later on that the guy had been telling her I was trying to steal him away from her. The friend group fractured over the disagreement and I hadn't talked to most of them in years. But a couple months ago the guy decided to add me on Facebook and tell me about how he'd broken up with my former friend and was really upset about it. I blocked him when he started talking about how it was the greatest experience of his life. Major authority issues and anger problems have made it so I can say to pretty much anyone except friends. The problem is, some friends take advantage of the fact that I'm the kind of guy that just drops everything to help a friend. I ended up being people's last-minute ride to places. Once a friend wanted to go visit family in Mexico. I had a free weekend and I thought, sure, okay, why not, just give me gas money. I was promised gas money the morning we were leaving. But, yeah, lo and behold, my friend needs to wait until payday. I was annoyed, but thought, yeah sure, whatever, I can wait until next Friday. We go, and while we're there, the mom decides she wants to come back with us, which was a bit annoying as she wasn't the nicest lady and kept harping about how bad my Spanish was. And that it was such a shame I'd forgotten my roots. She also complained non-stop about my driving, going on about how I was speeding, and the truck kept bouncing. Well, maybe some damn paved roads would have helped, and I was hardly speeding, I simply didn't want a queue of cars behind me. We get to the border, and I notice my friend is acting fidgety and the mom is looking at the border patrol with pretty bad unease. I ignored the misgivings I was getting because I knew it would just make me look suspicious. I'm talking to the border guard, and he asks to see papers for all of us. No problem, I pull out my passport and ID and hand them over, and explain the trip was to visit a friend's family and just escape for a weekend. No, we're not transporting anything back except a case of soda, real cane sugar. It's at this point that I realize my friend's mom has no legal right to enter the US. We get detained, and I have to explain I didn't know this, as she had been in the country many times previously. I state I can't attest as to what my friend knew, and then I just shut up completely. Eventually we get released, and I have to drive all the way back to drop the mom off at home. My friend then gets angry at me, as though I was the one that had caused the border patrol to ask us for papers. I also never got that gas money. Years ago, when I was young and naive, I made the mistake of telling a woman I worked with that I know how to sew. Pro tip, never, ever, ever tell anyone you know how to sew. Nobody. Not even your own mom. One day this woman, we'll call her Mary, comes up to me and tells me that the elastic in some of her underwear has come out, and can I re-sew it for her? WTF. In my defense, I did say no, I really can't do that, sorry, but apparently I wasn't forceful enough about it because she kept badgering me about it daily. Is that insane, or what? I kept trying to deflect, until one day she walked in, handed me a plastic grocery bag full of underwear, and said I know it will only take a minute and it would really help me out. Thanks. Seriously WTF? I'm already no good at confrontation, and Mary was just too damn pushy, so I regrettably didn't throw the bag at her head. After a few days of her constant nagging about whether I'd finished yet, I finally looked in the bag, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Not only was the underwear years old, stained, and nasty, it was a size 6. For those of you not down with your panty sizes, that's like a medium. Mary easily weighed at least 275 to 300 pounds or more. The woman was a house. No wonder the elastic ripped out of her size medium underwear. In the end no matter how many polite refusals I tried, I realized that I was out of my league. I did a shitty job sewing the damn things, hurled them back in the bag, and never again told another soul that I know how to sew. And also I'm much better at saying no now. An 11-month relationship that ended up costing me thousands in credit card bills because she has expensive tastes. I'm a moron. I unwittingly took a hooker to buy crack. I don't have trouble saying no anymore. Not me but my sister. She was doing medical missions in a South American country. She stayed with a host family. They were quite poor, as was apparent by her bedroom with the walls barely coming together. Well, on their first night for dinner, they made her what was considered a nice meal, including one of their goats, some corn dish and a pinto bean dish. This pinto bean dish looked like baked beans in some kind of creamy sauce. She was too polite to refuse, and took it a step further and finished all her dinner as was custom to this area. The bean dish? Pinto beans and mayonnaise. They served it cold. This family decided that she liked these cold mayonnaise beans. They made it every single night for dinner for the month she was there. TL, DR. Cold mayonnaise beans.